Have you ever asked yourself this simple but haunting question? Why do I still struggle with lust, even when I know I'm meant for more? You're not alone. In fact, the people who are chosen, the ones with vision, with calling, with spiritual depth, are the ones who silently battle the darkest temptations, especially lust. It's easy to think that once you've awakened spiritually or embraced a higher path, these urges just disappear. But the truth is far more painful and more profound. Before we dive deep into the 5 reasons why chosen ones secretly struggle with lust, and what Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, taught about mastering it, take a second to hit that subscribe button and like this video, because what you're about to hear isn't fluff. This might just change your love life, your spiritual strength, and your mental clarity forever. And make sure you watch this till the end, because the final reason will reveal something that will shift how you see your very purpose in this world. Let's begin. The hidden fire. Why lust targets the chosen. You may walk differently, think differently, see through the illusions others fall for. You feel things deeper. You know things before they happen. You're not like the rest. You're among the few chosen to carry a bigger burden and a higher light. But here's the paradox Marcus Aurelius hinted at in his Meditations. The more we value the mind, the more the flesh rebels. The greater your calling, the stronger the temptations become. Lust isn't just about the body. It's an attack on your soul's clarity. And chosen ones? You have more to lose than most. Let's now uncover the 5 hidden reasons why chosen ones, like you, silently battle lust, and how to turn that battle into your power. 1. Because you're spiritually hungry, and lust offers false fulfillment. Have you ever laid in bed at night, not with someone, but with your thoughts, and felt that ache inside? Not physical ache, but something deeper. A silent hunger in your soul. A craving not just for touch, but for connection, for meaning, for someone to see you, to hold not just your body, but your truth. You ever felt that? If so, then this is your story. You see, lust doesn't come to those who are empty. It comes to those who are hungry, deeply, spiritually, beautifully hungry. You're not like everyone else. You're not satisfied by shallow conversations, fast love, or meaningless swipes. You want something real, something rare. But here's the dangerous part. When you go too long without that realness, your soul gets starved. And what happens when someone's starving? They start eating anything, even if it's poison wrapped in sugar. Lust is exactly that. A beautiful lie for a deeper hunger. It doesn't offer nourishment, it just numbs the pain for a moment. There was once a man, maybe it was you, maybe it still is. He fell in love once, maybe in college or maybe even earlier. He gave her his time, his energy, his everything. He was loyal, focused. He believed love could change the world. But she left, or maybe she stayed but drifted. Or maybe she never even noticed his depth at all. And ever since then he's been searching, not for her, but for that feeling, that connection, that soul spark. He scrolls, he watches, he taps, not because he's dirty, but because he's wounded, because he's hungry, and lust keeps whispering, "Here, this will fill the void. Just one more time. This is close enough." But it never is it? Because what your soul truly craves can't be downloaded, clicked, or faked. You crave depth. You crave love in its purest form, raw, messy, divine. And Marcus Aurelius, in all his ancient wisdom, knew this pattern too. He said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But lust is neither right nor true. It's a performance, a pixelated lie. You know that. You felt that shame afterward, and that feeling of, this didn't help. Because your soul is trying to scream, this isn't what we came for. So pause, brother. Ask yourself, when did I first feel unloved, unseen, unworthy? And more importantly, what am I trying to fill with lust that only love can heal? Because if you're chosen, and you are, then you must learn to feed your soul with something real, and lust will never be real. Too soon, because you're meant to lead and lust tries to corrupt leaders first. Have you ever wondered why your temptations feel so intense? Why the moment you start rising, focusing, becoming better, lust hits harder than ever? It's not a coincidence. It's not weakness, it's warfare. You weren't born ordinary, even if no one told you. You've always known deep inside, you're here for something greater. Maybe you've felt it in the way people look to you in times of chaos. Maybe in how you carry pain quietly. while still giving others hope. Maybe in the way your mind questions everything while your heart still believes in truth. That's leadership. Not just titles or followers, but the silent weight you carry, the unseen battles you fight, the standards you refuse to lower. That's the mark of the chosen. But hear me when I say this. Lust attacks leaders first. Because if the enemy can corrupt the leader, he doesn't need to destroy the people. They'll collapse on their own. Let me take you into a story. Maybe you'll recognize yourself in it. There was once a young man, gifted, intense, focused. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. He wasn't chasing attention. In fact, he was running from it. But it followed him anyway. He was building, learning, becoming something few around him understood. But at night, in silence, he felt it. That pull, that craving, that whisper, just one look. One message, one night, and every time he gave in, he woke up empty. Not because he failed, but because he traded his crown for crumbs. Lust isn't just physical, it's political. It's a strategy of darkness to pull kings off their thrones and reduce warriors to shadows. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his time. Yet still, he didn't place his strength in armies. He placed it in discipline. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." And here's what he understood. The leader's real battlefield is within. If you can't command yourself, you're not ready to command others. If you fall easily to lust, how will you stand when your family, your tribe, your mission needs you to be unshakable? Let me ask you something personal again, and be honest. When you look at your life, how many times have your greatest setbacks come right after giving in to lust? How many times did clarity vanish? Focus fade? Energy disappear? That's not random. Because you're meant to lead, and leadership demands purity of purpose. So every time lust tempts you, remember, this is not about pleasure. It's about position, and the enemy wants to steal yours before you even step into it. Brother, don't hand over your crown for a moment of illusion. 3. Because you feel deeply and lust offers a shallow escape. Have you ever felt something so deeply that it almost scared you? A moment of heartbreak that left you breathless. A silent night where you laid on your back staring at the ceiling asking, why does it hurt so much? Or maybe it was the memory of someone you loved deeply and lost quietly. If you've ever loved and lost, really felt the weight of connection and the pain of its absence, then you already understand this point. You're not numb like most people. You feel, you carry things inside your chest that others would run from, and that's what makes you dangerous and vulnerable at the same time. Because here's the truth no one talks about. People who feel deeply are most tempted by shallow escapes. Why? Because when your emotions become too heavy, you'll search for a quick release, not because you're weak, but because you're human. And what's quicker than lust? It's instant. It's intense. And for a moment, just a moment, it feels like it silences everything. But here's the tragedy. Lust doesn't solve your pain. It just pauses it. And when the moment's over, that pain comes back stronger, now mixed with guilt, regret, and the echo of emptiness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But when your thoughts are flooded with emotion, trauma, loneliness, or heartbreak, you stop thinking clearly. You stop asking what's true. You just want the ache to end." Let me tell you a story. There was a man, sensitive, powerful, poetic in his soul. He loved once. Maybe it was his first love. Maybe the only one he ever truly trusted. She saw him. Not just his looks or charm, but him. The parts he hid. And for a while it was magic. But life happened. She left, or maybe she changed, or maybe he did. And ever since that day, every time he feels alone or overwhelmed, lust calls to him. Not because he's perverted or shallow, but because he's trying to recreate something sacred with something counterfeit. He wants to feel again, to be wanted again, to escape the pain, even if just for a night. But brother, let me tell you this. Lust will never match the depth of your soul. It can't, because it doesn't speak your language. It speaks to your flesh, not your spirit. So what do? You breathe. You sit in the discomfort. You let the storm pass without reaching for the false shelter of lust. And when it does, you'll realize this. You didn't need a shallow escape. You needed a sacred embrace, and that comes only when you feel deeply and choose to stay present with yourself. That's how healing starts. not in pleasure, but in presence. 4. Because you walk alone and lust pretends to offer companionship. Do you ever feel like no one truly sees you? Like you're surrounded by people, yet still feel alone? If you do, you're not broken. You're chosen. And the path of the chosen is lonely by design. You walk differently. You see through things that others don't even notice. You crave truth, meaning, loyalty, and depth in a world drowning in shallowness. Most of your life, you've probably been the one who understood everyone else, but no one really understood you. You smile, you lead, you inspire, but at night, when the noise stops, you're alone. And it's in that silence that lust creeps in, not as a monster, but as a friend. It says, "Come here, I'll keep you company. I won't leave you like the others did.
I'll make you feel wanted again."
If only for a little while. And that's how it starts. Because lust isn't just about bodies or desire, it's about connection. Or rather, the illusion of it. You see, lust doesn't come to fill your body, it comes to fill your void. Marcus Aurelius, a man who knew the burden of leadership, solitude, and purpose, once wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." But that kind of peace, you don't stumble into it. You earn it. And the temptation of lust grows louder when you haven't yet learned to be friends with your own soul. Let me tell you a story. Maybe you've lived it. There was a man, focused, driven, destined for something greater, but no one saw that part of him. He had visions, ideas, dreams he couldn't even explain to others, because they'd think he was too intense, too much. So he kept it all inside. He woke up, worked hard, stayed quiet. And at night, when the world went dark, that ache returned. That ache to be understood, to be held, to not feel like he was the only one. And that's when lust knocked, not as filth, but as false comfort. And every time he gave in, he'd feel better. For a moment. But then it would return, heavier, more hollow. Because what he truly needed was companionship that honored his soul, not just his body. But here's the hard truth. Lust will always pretend to offer you intimacy, but it will never stay after the climax. It doesn't want your heart, just your energy. And when it takes it, it leaves you more alone than before. So what's the answer? You sit with yourself. You walk through the loneliness without trying to sedate it. And one day, as Marcus said, you'll find that the most peaceful place was inside you all along. The loneliness was never a curse. It was a test to see if you could love yourself before someone else tried to mimic it. 5. Because you're meant for sacred love, and lust is the enemy of the sacred. Have you ever felt deep down that the love you crave isn't ordinary? That what you want isn't just affection, or attention, or sex, but something divine? A connection so rare, so deep, so sacred. It feels like the two of you were made for each other before you were even born. You're not crazy for feeling that. You're not asking for too much. You just have a soul that remembers what most people have forgotten. You were made for sacred love. And that is exactly why lust hunts you. Because lust knows, if you ever discover the true power of real love, a love built on trust, truth, emotional depth, and spiritual connection, you become unstoppable. You start healing. You start leading. You start shining so brightly that darkness has no place left to hide. Lust fears that. Because sacred love makes you whole, and lust only survives in brokenness. Marcus Aurelius may not have written about romance directly, but he understood the war between higher and lower natures. He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That includes how you love, how you give, how you choose. And here's something most never admit. Lust doesn't just distract you from sacred love. It delays it. It damages your capacity to even recognize it when it finally arrives. Let me share something. There was a man, a good man. He had been through pain, yes, but his heart was still open. He wanted something real, something rare. But the world kept showing him copies. Lust kept knocking, dressed up in beauty, attention, flirty texts, midnight calls. And slowly, piece by piece, he stopped believing in sacred love. Not because it didn't exist, but because lust had numbed him to the frequency of the real thing. By the time a true woman entered his life, a woman who carried grace in her voice and depth in her silence, he couldn't receive her. He couldn't believe her. He had seen too many illusions. And that is the final tragedy of lust. It doesn't just rob your time or energy, it steals your capacity to love fully. Because sacred love requires purity, not perfection, but alignment. And every time you give in to lust, you drift further from that alignment. But here's the hope. You can return. You can choose again. You can starve lust and feed your soul. You can prepare your heart for the kind of love that doesn't leave, doesn't lie, doesn't need to be chased, because it sees you and chooses you. Remember what Marcus taught? You're not here to argue with the world. You're here to become who you were called to be. So rise, King. Sacred love is real, but it waits for the man who's done chasing shadows. What Marcus would tell you today? If Marcus Aurelius were here, walking beside you today, in this digital world filled with temptations, screens, and seductive illusions, what would he say? He would not judge. He would remind that every man and even emperors are tested. That strength is built through repeated choice, that your flesh can serve your mission, or sabotage it, and that your mind, ruled by reason, must always be the master, never the slave. You will fall, but never forget. Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look. The battle with lust isn't a sign of your failure. It's proof of your greatness. The enemy doesn't attack empty vaults. So the next time you feel that urge and with that wave, with that burning, don't see it as weakness. See it as a signal, a sign that your crown is near, that your purpose is unfolding, and that your discipline will unlock a life no one else can touch. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.